People often say that something costs an arm and a leg, but few people have paid such a cost. Bruce Orsmith is one of those select few. On August 14th of last year, Bruce was walking home from work later than usual. He had a car but chose to walk to work most days. He only lived 5 blocks away. Unless there was inclement weather, you could find him getting in his steps, as he called it. When he left for work earlier that day, he and his wife got into a little spat. He told his wife Elise that he would be working a little later than usual. They were behind, and his boss was offering overtime to anyone who wanted to stay. Normally, she wouldn't mind, but they had dinner plans with her sister this evening. "Oh, Bruce," she sighed. "How could you forget? I reminded you twice." He tried apologizing, but it was no use. He already told his boss that he would stay. He couldn't back out of it now. Despite his best efforts to defuse the situation, Elise was not receptive to his apologies. "I better not come home empty-handed tonight if I want to sleep in my own bed," he thought to himself as he was making his walk home. There was a small store about a block away that carried unique items that Elise was fond of. It wasn't very out of his way, and he was sure to find something that she would like. It was a win-win if you asked him. The lights were dim, and it smelled like patchouli when he walked in. He didn't know why she had such an affinity for this place. He bypassed the bath and body section because he definitely did not want her to smell like anything in this place. There was a glass case with knickknacks that caught his eye on the way through. A small jade elephant stood out from the rest of the bunch. He picked it up and carried it to the register. He paid in cash and placed the gift inside the pocket of his jacket. Hopefully, this peace offering would do what he hoped it would. The shopkeeper locked the door after Bruce walked out. He supposed he should feel lucky. He didn't realize he had only made it in the nick of time. He continued walking, cutting through an alleyway that seemed like a good shortcut. It was a bit dark, and he hesitated for a moment. He almost turned his cell phone flashlight on, but changed his mind. What kind of man was afraid of the dark? He began walking with a quick pace. No reason not to go fast. He could see the end of the alleyway in the near distance. Almost there, he thought to himself. Suddenly, he felt himself falling, not falling down though, dropping. Sharp pain tore through his body. He cried out. If nothing else, maybe that shopkeeper would hear him and send help. What had happened to him? It was pitch black. He could no longer see any type of light ahead of him. Perhaps it was a good thing that he hadn't pulled his phone out already. He would have dropped it for sure. He tried to stick his hand in his jacket pocket, but discovered that he could not move his arm. Panic was beginning to set in as he used his other arm and fumbled around for his phone. Once the light turned on, he shined it all around him. It took a minute for what he was seeing to connect in his brain. He shined the light above him, and he began to understand what happened to him. There was a small hole above him. If the alley had been lit, he would have noticed the hole that was missing its cover. He must have stepped just right to make it straight through. His body had taken a beating, though. His entire left side was numb and pretty bloody. He couldn't move his arm or his leg. There would be no climbing out of here for Bruce. He would call Elise. He hit the call button, but nothing would go through. He tried again. Still nothing. It was the metal crevasse he had fallen into. It was interfering with his signal. This was a nightmare. "Help! Please! Can anyone hear me? Help!" He couldn't stay down here. He needed to get to a hospital. There was something severely wrong with him, and he had no idea if he was still bleeding. He tried over and over to call Elise, but the call would never go through. He turned his flashlight off to conserve his phone battery. Even if he couldn't use it to make a call, there might still be a chance that his location could be tracked. He sat there quietly in the dark, keeping his ears peeled in case someone was walking nearby. Between the blood loss and the silence, Bruce fell asleep in no time. Clatter awoke him the next morning. To say he was confused was an understatement. It took a moment for him to remember where he was and why he was in so much pain. He tried to yell, but was hoarse. He took a moment to clear his throat. He felt weak. He wondered how much blood he had lost. His head spun a bit. "Can anybody hear me? I need help," he said as loud as he could. If he could yell as loud as last night when his adrenaline was pumping, someone would have already heard him. "Help! Help!" he cried out again, a bit louder this time. "Did you hear that?" he could hear a woman nearby say. "Help! Please help!" he shouted. "In the hole!" "Someone is calling for help," the woman said to someone. He could hear her footsteps getting closer. "Hello?" she said before coming to a halt. "In the hole!" he finally managed to shout. Footsteps raced toward him. He finally saw a face appear at the hole. "Is someone down there? It's too dark. I can't see." "I'm here," Bruce exclaimed. "Please send help. I'm hurt." "I'll go get help," the woman exclaimed before disappearing. He heard her footsteps scurry away from him. Relief surged through him. He wasn't safe yet, but he was one step closer. He waited patiently, as if he had any other choice. He didn't know how long it had been. It was hard to keep track of anything down there. Pretty soon he heard multiple footsteps headed toward him. "Hold on tight, sir. We are on the way," a man shouted. "Okay," Bruce responded. After a moment, 2 police officers appeared at the hole. "Are you able to climb, sir?" "No, I am unable to use one of my arms and one of my legs. The fire department is on the way with the equipment we need to get you out of there." "Please, can someone call my wife?" The officers agreed, and Bruce gave them Elise's phone number. She must have been worried sick about him. How many times had she tried to call only to end up with his voicemail? All of this because of a silly fight. He wouldn't have even been in this alley if it weren't for that. Sirens in the distance broke him free of his thoughts. The fire department was close. "Bruce! Bruce!" He could hear his wife shouting in the distance. She had to have run the whole way there to make it so fast. "Let her through," one of the officers shouted. Elise appeared at the hole. "Bruce, are you down there?" "Yes, sweetheart. I tried to call you, but my signal is blocked down here. I have been calling you all night and day." She sobbed. "I will be out of here soon." He tried to reassure her. He didn't mention his injuries. There was no need to upset her further right now. She would find out soon enough. Swiftly moving bootsteps and the clanking of metal filled the air. Elise moved out of the way. "We are going to lower down a ladder." A firefighter shined a light into the hole and began lowering an aluminum ladder. Once it was steady, the firefighter began climbing down. There wasn't much room. If he had been wearing much gear, he might not have fit. "Can you move?" the man asked Bruce once he was on the ground. "Not much. I'm afraid I got pretty hurt on my way down. My left arm and leg are out of commission completely. My right side seems to be working fine." "Well, there is an ambulance waiting for you. We just got to get you out of this hole first. Teamwork is going to be key here." "I'll do everything I can," Bruce told the man. "Okay, I am going to stand you up. You hold on to me when I do. It will take a few minutes to get your bearing. Then, you are going to use your right arm and leg to climb up that ladder. I will be right behind you trying to support as much of you weight as I can. Once you get to the top, the other guys will pull you out," the firefighter explained. Bruce agreed. He would try anything right now. He was ready to be out of this hole. Step by step, he made his way up the ladder. It wasn't easy. Without feeling his left side limbs, he felt like he was dragging dead weight up the ladder. The next hour or so was a blur for Bruce. Once he was pulled out of the hole, he was on a stretcher and headed to the hospital in no time. The next thing he knew, he was waking up in a hospital bed. Elise was sitting beside him with a worried look on her face. "Hey, beautiful," Bruce whispered. "You're awake." Elise smiled. He knew he was in bad shape, but he wasn't ready for Elise's next words. "Bruce, they had to amputate your arm and leg. I'm so sorry." He remained quiet, trying to process what she just told him. "What were you doing in that alley anyway, Bruce? I can't figure it out." "The elephant." He looked around the room for his clothes. They were folded in a chair in the corner. "Reach into the inside pocket of my jacket," Bruce said. Elise shot him a skeptical look, but did as he instructed. She felt around for a moment and finally pulled out the jade elephant. "Oh, Bruce, it's beautiful." She smiled. "You were mad at me. I dropped the ball. I couldn't come home empty-handed. I stopped at that kitschy store you like near my work. I was trying to save time, so I cut down the alley. I thought it would be a good shortcut." Elise walked back to the hospital bed and sat back down next to Bruce. He patted the spot in the bed next to him. "I'm sure the nurses won't mind if you get up here with me for a moment." She giggled and got on the bed. She leaned her head against his and rolled the tiny elephant around between her fingertips. "It's real jade," she commented. "Nothing but the best for my girl." One of his nurses came in the room. "Mr. Orsmith, you're awake," she exclaimed. "How are you feeling?" "Better than I felt last night." She poked and prodded Bruce for a few minutes. She took his blood pressure, checked his vitals, and refilled his water cup. "That's very pretty," she said to Elise when she noticed her admiring the elephant. "Apparently, it's the cause of the predicament we are in now. It is beautiful, though." The nurse admired the piece for another moment before leaving the room. "I don't suppose I should ask how much you paid for this?" "An arm and a leg," he replied with a wink.
For more stories like this one, be sure to like and subscribe. Follow me on TikTok @CaptivatingCont for more content.